Good morning friends, welcome to Raj Malhotra IAS, welcome to our daily Hindu newspaper analysis. I hope everyone is fit and fine and ready to start the session, right? Okay, chaliye ji. Let's try to look at the today's front news, that is, let's discuss this particular news. Vice President says court can't dilute parliament sovereignty. Now here is a very important terminology that is now coming up, that is the separation of powers, that is between judiciary and executive. Now I think everyone is aware of the developments related to the collegium system that is there for the appointment of judges, along with it the National Judicial Appointment Commission. Now there has been a lot of debate that is going on between the judiciary and the executive, that what shall be the correct course of action and what shall be the correct plan if we are trying to, let's say, appoint the judges. Courts, if we talk about judiciary, was not in favor of this particular National Judicial Appointment Commission. They were not in the favor of National Judicial Appointment Commission, hence they declared it as null and void. Quickly write it in the comment box. NGAC was, let's say this particular act was appointed by the center, according to which act, and they made certain changes in our constitution as well. Quickly write down in the comment box which was a constitutional amendment. So the Supreme Court declared this particular as null and void, and they asked for the executive or the legislature that you have to bring in certain reforms in the collegium system, right? Now this is the particular thing that we have to understand, that इन्होंने इसको बिल्कुल ही रद्द कर दिया, that is National Judicial Appointment Commission. It is very good. That particular amendment was 99th amendment. Muskan, it was not the 101st, it was the 99th amendment. Now our parliament, basically our vice president is saying that judiciary cannot strike down the amendments that have been passed by the whole majority of the legislature. The basic thing that this particular editorial or the news is trying to say, that court cannot dilute the parliament sovereignty. So here the thing that is being emerging is the concept of sovereignty of the parliament, and these things we have to understand, that in our constitution, if we talk about our constitution, our parliament is not sovereign, our constitution is sovereign. If we compare it to the, let's say, the constitution of the UK, where parliament is supreme, and it is the highest body, if we can talk about it. But here, if we talk about it, our constitution is the, it has the absolute sovereignty. So this is a debate that is going on between the executive and the judiciary related to the one particular thing, that is appointment of judges. And here they are saying the thing which Supreme Court did, basically the judiciary did, was judicial overreach. The thing it did was, it was judicial overreach. But one thing we have to understand, that there were a lot of flaws in the National Judicial Appointment Commission itself. There were a lot of flaws within the National Judicial Appointment Commission. I will tell you one or two flaws so that you guys have a quick idea related to National Judicial Appointment Commission. First of all, this particular commission was supposed to have a 6-member body consisting of CGI plus 2 judges of Supreme Court plus 1 law minister and 2 eminent members. Now here the important thing you have to understand is that this particular National Judicial Appointment Commission basically gave the veto power. Let's say a name that has been proposed by CGI or the judges of the Supreme Court could be overruled if 2 of these members of National Judicial Appointment Commission are not in the favor of that particular appointment of the judge. So as a result, this particular system gave more power to other members as compared to CGI, that is the Chief Justice of India, somehow encroaching upon the independence of the judiciary. The second thing that was the flaw that was there in the National Judicial Appointment Commission was related to one most important aspect that you have to understand, that these 2 eminent members need not to be the members that who have a lot of experience, let's say as jurists or as a law members. No, there could be any member that might not have any experience in this particular thing. So there were a lot of flaws in this National Judicial Appointment Commission. Rightly I have highlighted the two basic flaws. One was the veto power, and eminent person could be any person, or it could be the agents of the center as well. It could be the agents of the center executive as well. So we can say one thing, the executive had now the more role in the appointment of judges, which is absolutely different to what is there in the collegium system. What is there in the collegium system, where the CJI and the senior most judges of the Supreme Court put forward the name to the executive, and finally they have to let's say appoint the judges on the basis of the recommendations that have been made by the Supreme Court collegium. So this was a little bit idea or the debate that is there between collegium and National Judicial Appointment Commission, and our Vice President has said that this process was through absolute democratic process through Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and it shall not be declared null and void. I hope this thing is clear to you guys, right? Chaliye. Moving to the next news. Rupees 2600 crore incentive for banks to promote digital payments. Now one thing we have to understand, over the let's say 5 to 6 years, if we see, there have been a lot of increase in digital transactions. I hope everyone is now let's say aware of this particular thing. Whenever we go to any shop, we have to buy something, we do not pay much in cash. Generally we go to the shops, either we Paytm it, either we UPI it, either we do a phone pay, something like that, right? So the thing over here is, even if you are going to a high shop, let's say for buying something expensive, or maybe let's say if you are going to buy small things from your departmental stores as well, there is now increase in the digital transactions. So as a result, one thing you have to notice, that there has been increase of 23% in digital payments. If I talk about financial year 2021, I think everyone could see over here, in 2017, if I talk about in numbers, the number of digital, or we can the value of digital payments were around 1369 lakh crore. Now it has gone up to, in the financial year of 2021, to 1744 lakh crore. So there has been an absolute, if we talk about increase in the numbers of the digital transaction and as the values as well. So in order to make sure that the banks put in more infrastructure so that they are able to facilitate more and more digital payments, 2600 crore incentive would be given to banks. This is the important news that you have to understand. In order to make sure we have the required infrastructure, we have the required R&D in the infrastructure, rupees 2600 crore incentive would be put for the banks so that they promote digital payments. Now this is the important thing that you have to understand, and this is in respect to basically RuPay and UPI. This is in respect to RuPay and UPI. So 2600 crore would be given to banks to promote digital payments. So these are our major two news if I talk about our front page, right? Chaliye. I think this is a very historic moment for us, for India as well, for an Indian cultural values as well, for our music industry as well. That is RRR Natu Natu wins Golden Globe. Very important. And who was the composer? Composer was M.M. Keeravani. Very important. He has been awarded the best, we can say, the original song for this Raj Malhotra directed RRR at the 80th Golden Globe Awards, where Natu Natu has won the Golden Globe Award. This is a very big achievement for us as a nation. As we could see, even our Prime Minister tweeted related to this particular achievement and congratulated the whole team for this great achievement. I hope this point is clear to everyone, and it is very important, right? Okay. Next is Bihar to fix glitches in MG Narega's e-attendance system. I think now everyone is aware of this particular fact, that now the government has said that at each and every MG Narega site, the person's attendance would be done 2 times a day, and it has to be done through this particular software, that is National Mobile Monitoring Software. Very important. Now attendance would be taken 2 times a day, and it would be uploaded through national mobile monitoring software. But there are lot of glitches and lot of flaws in this particular system, because everyone doesn't have the access to smartphone. There is a problem of internet connectivity as well, and workers have to be present for, let's say, 2 times in a day in the second half as well, in order to make sure they receive their required wages. This is not the case that happens in India. People do their work and then leave for another work. So as a result, if they would be have to present 2 times a day, they would have to come again. It means a person initially was working for MG Narega work and then going to some other work. Now he has to come back. As a result, he might be losing this particular work and might be losing on wages. So there are a lot of problems in this particular e-attendance system that is there in this newly introduced concept under National Mobile Monitoring Software of MG Narega. I hope these points are clear to everyone. If you are been a continuous, let's say, continuously watching our Hindu news analysis, then you must be able to, let's say, join this all the dots and able to realize what I am talking through, right? I think everyone is aware with me and is pretty, I am very happy that I am able to see most of the faces who are there with me on each day, right? Chaliye, moving to the next part. There is nothing that much important on regional or the states page. Moving to the states page, we haven't have nothing, no. Okay. There are 2 important news related to environment that is very important. That is, Indian skimmer, very important. They have been sighted at the Godavari estuary. Very important. The word here important is Indian skimmer, and they have been spotted at this particular Godavari estuary. Now the important thing you have to note is, what is the IUCN status of this particular Indian skimmer? I think everyone is able to see this particular bird, right? The IUCN status of this particular bird is endangered. Write it down if you are writing in any notes. This thing is very important. Indian skimmer is basically, if I talk about its IUCN status, is endangered, right? This is it about this news. Then we have a particular butterfly species, that is white tufted royal butterfly. White tufted royal butterfly. This has been, let's say, are protected in Schedule 2 of Wildlife Protection Act. Schedule 2 of Wildlife Protection Act, and along with it there is a very important wildlife sanctuary that they have mentioned is present in Kerala. The name of the wildlife sanctuary is Shandurni Wildlife Sanctuary. You can write the name Shandurni Wildlife Sanctuary. I hope you are able to get these 2 particular points, that Indian skimmer is endangered and this white tufted royal butterfly that has been spotted in Kerala's Kannur region has also been there in this particular Shandurni Wildlife Sanctuary, and it is under Schedule 2 of Wildlife Protection Act, which is, we could say, the highest status of protection under Wildlife Protection Act 1972, right? I think everyone is aware कि अभी ये recently amend भी हुआ है और इसके related एक bill भी चल रहा है related to Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2021. I think everyone is aware of that, where they are trying to reduce the number of schedules from Schedule 6 to Schedule 4. I think everyone is aware of this particular situation. पहले 6 शेड्यूल थे, अब टोटल कितने शेड्यूल करने की बात हो रही है? टोटल 4 शेड्यूल करने की बात करी जा रही है, राइट? ओके, मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. चलिए जी, अब आते हैं एडिटोरियल पेज पे. देखो, आज का एक एडिटोरियल दैट इज द रेकलेस प्री, एंड वन एडिटोरियल और द टेक्स्ट पेज दैट इज रिलेटेड टू वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दे आर ऑल इंपॉर्टेंट रिलेटेड टू जोशीमठ subsidence. I think everyone is aware of this particular situation, and I would discuss this article in the text page of Joshimath subsidence. Now, coming to the basic news over here, reducing preterm births and stillbirths. Now, this is very very important to understand what is the meaning of preterm births and what is the meaning of stillbirths. The problem this particular editorial wants to say, let's try to see. I will be trying to solve this whole editorial through this note page. That is, we have the problem of under 5 mortality, that is globally as well as under India, the number of deaths under 5 years of age. Then we have the neonatal, we could say deaths as well, right, if we talk about neonatal mortality. So if we talk about under 5 mortality and the total number of childs that are, let's say, losing their life, it is predominantly high under this particular category, that is neonatal mortality. Now what is this neonatal mortality? It is basically children who are not able to survive within 1 month of their birth. The children who are not been able to survive within the 1 month of their birth. Now one thing you have to understand, there is a term called preterm birth and stillbirth. If we talk about the total gestation period of a pregnancy, if we talk about, it is 37 weeks. But sometimes we have seen that children are born before this 37 weeks. As a result, they do not have the required nutrition and are the predominant cause of this neonatal mortality. That is, they are born before this 37 weeks. That birth that is before this 37 weeks is categorized as preterm birth. Now what is this stillbirth? When a particular, let's say, a baby who is under the mother's fetus after 22 weeks of pregnancy, let's say, is not alive, and when it is born, it is basically, we can attribute it as the stillbirth. So here the term periods of pregnancy that you have to understand, that one is 37 weeks related to preterm birth and one is 22 weeks related to stillbirth. That are the main cause of concern that we have related to this particular under 5 mortality or the neonatal mortality. Now one thing this particular editorial says, that we have to make sure that is early detection, early screening, there is adequate amount of nutrition that is being provided to the women. There have been inequalities where we have seen in rural areas due to lack of, let's say, health options, the babies, or let's say we have the more rate of neonatal mortality. So one thing this editorial is trying to focus is related to the budget, because in the budget there would be a certain expenditure that would be taken out for health as a proportion of GDP, right? So they want in the coming budget there shall be more expenditure on GDP, more expenditure on health as a percentage of GDP, so that we are able to fix the required loopholes, ताकि ये जो loopholes हमें दिख रहे हैं हम इनको टारगेट कर सके, और जो ये प्रॉब्लम हमारे सामने आ रही है जो हमारे अंडर 5 बर्थ या नियोनेटल मोर्टेलिटी की, हम इन सिचुएशन को सॉल्व कर सकें. So this is the particular theme of this particular editorial, that try to increase your budgetary spending on health as a proportion of GDP, because in India we are seeing that there are a lot of cases of, we call it as neonatal mortality, and the primary concerns are the preterm births and the stillbirth. I hope you are with me, right? Chaliye, moving to the next part. There is one editorial related to now China investing in Taliban's Afghanistan. Now this is a very, very tricky situation if we talk about it, because there are a lot of security concerns if China has to consider Taliban regime as well, right? But one thing you have to know that is very, very important, that Afghanistan, if we talk about Afghanistan, that the deal, it is estimated to be around $540 million. The deal that have been signed between China and the Taliban regime, which will give Beijing access to Amud Darya basin. Now this basin is very, very important and it is present in northern Afghanistan. Amud Darya basin in northern Afghanistan. So the Afghanistan Taliban regime has signed an agreement, that is with China, that they would be giving access to this oil rich, basically Amud Darya basin in the northern Afghanistan. But there are a lot of that are challenges that are there from the security point of view, because it is a, if we talk about very extremist regime, if we consider the Taliban situation, and it has to be seen whether in future this particular deal is able to solve or not, because there has been issue that is now arising between Pakistan and Taliban as well. इनके बीच में इशू चल रहा है. China and Pakistan, they want to make sure that they are being, let's say, leveraging their position and investing and making sure this Afghanistan is part of their Belt and Road Initiative. So this is the first step that has been taken by the China, that is to involve with this particular regime of Afghanistan, that is the Taliban regime. But as we know that this regime has been like very we could say rigid orthodoxy, because they do not allow, let's say recently they have banned the women from, let's say, studying in the universities. That is a very regressive step, and every country was condemning this particular situation, right? Okay, moving to the next part. चलिए, अब ये सिचुएशन हर जगह समझ में आ रही है. Why is the land sinking in Joshimath? देखो, if we talk about Joshimath, it is a very historical place, right? So it is a, let's say, a very famous tourist spot as well, because it is a way to, let's say, Badrinath, and then it is way to Hemkund Sahib. But because of this, there were a lot of developments that were taking place, like the tourist development, like we have the hotels coming up. One of the things that you have to understand, that around 50-60 years ago, MC Mishra committee report highlighted, if the development has to take place in Joshimath, it has to be sustainable development. One thing they were absolutely clear. Why they were saying that they have to be very careful when you are developing a particular, let's say, anything in Joshimath area. Because let's say this Joshimath area, let's say this is the ground level, this is the below ground level. This is basically made up of landslide debris. It is not even a rock that is particularly supporting this particular ground. So this is a very important situation that you have to understand, that this particular area is not the type of rock that we actually see. It is basically a debris. So this was absolutely that, we could say it was not able to provide that much support. And recently we have seen instances of rock avalanches that has put enough pressure on this particular ground. So as a result, it is weakening the entire underground structure as well. And over the time period, there have been widening of roads under the Char Dham highway project. Plus, if we talk about Tapovan Vishnugad project, which the residents claim is responsible for this land sinking, because they had to dug the underground tunnel. So as a result, this whole system became destabilized. Now it is destabilizing. Along with it, there is movement of plates as well. And we know that this particular area of Joshimath lies in a very high danger zone, that is seismic zone 5. So as a result of all these factors, this particular, the underground, or we could say area below the underground, has now become a little bit destabilized. As a result, the land is sinking in Joshimath. So this is the particular reason that I can attribute it, that this is the particular situation that has happened, that has resulting in the land sinking, right? So I think you are aware of the points that you need to understand. One is the area of landslide debris, rock avalanches, widening of Char Dham highways, Tapovan Vishnugad project, and the movement of plates as well, right? चलो आपके एक दो क्वेश्चंस देख लेता हूं मैं. Yes, Divya, it is related. I have told you, because that rock avalanche had occurred from a very, let's say, high height, that is around 2 kilometers. So it created a lot of impact on the ground. Yes, high earthquake prone area. Okay, a push for glory, that isn't that much, but you need to know the basics, right? If a person is already, see, one thing you have to understand, that we want to maximize our wages. If a person is employed, yes, let's say India में ना हर जगह full employment नहीं है, कॉन्ट्रेक्चुअल एम्प्लॉयमेंट होती है, तो अगर किसी को पार्ट टाइम काम मिल रहा है, इफ समवन इज एबल टू एम्प्लॉय पार्ट टाइम, सो व्हाई वुड नॉट ही वर्क इन दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया इफ इज एबल टू गेट द डेली वेजेस. आई होप दीज पॉइंट्स एंड डाउट्स आर क्लियर टू एवरीवन, राइट? चलिए, मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. आई हैव कवर्ड दिस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक. ओके, okay, this particular if I talk about the text page, if I particularly talks about this particular text page, it is about the naming of Allahabad region. Earlier it was Prayagraj. Jalaluddin Akbar named it as Allahabad, that is abode of the god. This means Allahabad, that is abode of the almighty or abode of the god. But British or the अंग्रेज अगर हम बात करें, British were not able to pronounce it as Allahabad. They pronounce it as Allahabad. So that is why how the name from Prayagraj changed to Allahabad to Allahabad. I hope this is a basic fact that could be, let's say, understood by everyone. Nothing more than that. Just you need to know the basics कि कैसे नाम पड़ा था अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं इलाहाबाद का, right? Okay. चलिए, moving to the next part. The important news that we're going to discuss is, okay, I think everyone is aware of the situation that is happening around this Union Carbide Corporation that was responsible for the leakage of methyl isocyanate and the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now the center is saying that you have to give more dues, more fine for the victims of the affected ones. But Supreme Court and the Union Carbide Corporation is saying that earlier we had the settlement. हमारी सेटलमेंट पहले हो गई थी, अब उससे ज्यादा हम बार बार पैसा क्यों दें? दैट इज द थिंग दैट इज बीइंग सेड बाय सुप्रीम कोर्ट एज वेल, दैट यू डू नॉट हैव टू डग अप द ओल्ड ग्रेव्स when this was a settlement that was decided and center cannot ask for extra money. So as a result, basically the thing that the center wants is basically curative petition on the Supreme Court judgment. What they are looking for is the curative petition for the Supreme Court judgment. One thing I have to understand, when Supreme Court gives a judgment, it is the fundamental law of the land, or it becomes fundamental law of the land. If Supreme Court has to review its decision, it could be done through review petition. And if anything doesn't come under review petition, then there is also a last chance that there is curative petition. And this concept of curative petition has been the invention of Supreme Court itself in its 2002 Ashok Hurra versus Rupa Hurra case. Now one thing you have to understand, that curative petition is not administered on various grounds. It is administered on very narrow grounds. Like, let's say if the complainant was not properly listened to, उसकी बात अच्छे से नहीं सुनी गई थी, और जब जजमेंट सुनाई गई थी हो सकता है जजेस का डिसीजन बायस रहा हो. यही दो रीजन है जिसके ऊपर इफ आई कैन टॉक अबाउट द क्यूरेटिव पिटीशन कैन बी एंटरटेन्ड बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, बट देयर दे आर सेइंग that you do not have to dug up the old grave and go for this particular curative petition. Will not try curative petition in Bhopal gas case, leak case like a suit. I hope you are able to understand this particular point. If you are able to understand this particular thing, type yes, because this was the thing that has been in news in relation to Bilkis Bano case as well. सी डेवलपमेंट का इरा है राजिंदर, बट डेवलपमेंट ऐसे नहीं कि कुछ भी कर लो डेवलपमेंट के नाम पे. यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट डेवलपमेंट इज सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट. अदरवाइज इफ यू आर सेइंग दैट यू कैन डू एनीथिंग इन द नेम ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, देन यू वुड रिमूव द ऑल द, लेट से क्या कर दोगे, अब सारे ट्रीज उखाड़ दोगे, पेड़ उखाड़ दोगे, फिर वो बीच में फॉरेस्ट कवर और ट्री कवर कहां रहेगा, राइट? सो यू हैव टू मेक श्योर डेवलपमेंट इज देयर, इट शैल बी अ सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट. चलो जी, मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. Now, this is very interesting news. Office of Registrar General of India following obsolete criteria to define scheduled tribes. अब ये चीज बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है. How a scheduled tribe is defined or included in the list, it is done according to the earlier recommendations that were made by Lokur committee. Now the name of the committee that is very important is Lokur committee. Lokur committee had their own implications and their criteria for including a person in the list of what? In the list of, let's say, scheduled tribes. And the node of the office of RGI is needed for inclusion of any community in ST list. So if I can talk about Registrar General of India is very important, because he has to give the nod if a person or a community has to be included in scheduled tribe list. But what the government is saying, that they are following the old criteria that was decided by the Lokur committee. The one criteria that was or is being debated is, that has been or was set up in the Lokur committee, is geographical isolation. Now one thing that you have to understand, in 2014, when this particular we could say Narendra Modi government came into power in 2014, they constituted a task force which gave a separate set of recommendations that were quite different from, let's say, that were given by Lokur committee, which is still being followed, because they are saying that in this era of day and age, you cannot have this geographical isolation as the criteria, because there is a lot of development, there is a lot of connectivity that is taking place, and it is not more possible to define this particular vague term of geographical isolation. So as a result, they wanted and they changed this particular criteria. But the government is now saying why they are still following the old criteria that was constituted by, let's say, the Lokur committee, right? So this is the particular debate related to this particular thing. You have to understand that Registrar General of India is the nodal body that provides inclusion for any community in ST list, right? I hope this point is clear. हाँ जी, गट्स ट्वीट आप क्या कहना चाहते हो? अगर कुछ क्वेश्चन है तो पूछो, ऐसे हाथ जोड़ के क्या कर रहे हो? ठीक है, ओके, आई होप दिस पॉइंट इज क्लियर टू एवरीवन, राइट? चलो, मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. There is nothing that much important on the news page here over here. Okay, then moving to the world page. Now this is interesting. UK Japan Inc. Defense Pact allowing troop deployments. Now in order to make sure UK has a presence in the Indo-Pacific region, they are trying to have, let's say, more and more engagement with the countries that are a part of this particular area. So as a result, UK and Japan have now signed a reciprocal access agreement. Very important. You can write down in your notes, reciprocal access agreement that would allow security forces to train in each other's countries. That is between, if we talk about UK and Japan. This agreement is very important. This is reciprocal access agreement, right? So the countries would be able to participate, have security drills, and let's say hone their skills related to security. So UK is now also trying to engage itself in this particular Indo-Pacific zone. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Chalo. Finally, we have our economics page. We discussed the major thing, that the government has decided to give certain amount of money to the banks so that they are able to, let's say, spend on the infrastructure in digital payments. One thing that is a very serious concern is related to this viscose fiber that is being imported. If I can talk about, this is a very important thing. Viscose fiber जो इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, सरकार कह रही है, गवर्नमेंट कह रही है कि इसके ऊपर हमें एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगानी चाहिए. This viscose fiber is being imported from Indonesia. This is particularly okay. देखो यार कुछ लोग आते रहते हैं फालतू के ना कमेंट करते रहते हैं, कुछ काम तो है नहीं है, राइट, से दे वांट टू क्रिएट अ डिस्टर्बेंस बट वी डू नॉट लेट दैट पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट्स टू कम एंड जस्ट राइट एनीथिंग, राइट. चलिए, so this viscose fiber is being imported from Indonesia, but as a result of free trade agreement that we have with these particular countries, it was coming on zero import duty. इसके ऊपर कोई import duty लग नहीं रही थी, right. So अब क्योंकि इसके ऊपर ड्यूटी नहीं लग रही थी, ये चीज सस्ती हो रही थी, it was being imported at a very very cheap price, but that is hurting the domestic manufacturer, but that is hurting the domestic manufacturer. So as a result, if I can talk to you, Association of Man-Made Fiber Industry of India, Association of Man-Made Fiber Industry of India has said that we have to impose anti-dumping duty because they are dumping their products at a very very cheap price. As a result, they are pushing, let's say, the manufacturers from India away because of their low prices. So as a result, in order to protect the domestic manufacturer, there is an appeal that why not we levy a anti-dumping duty, right. So guys, this is it for today's news. I hope you were able to understand what I was trying to say. Krishnamurthy, I didn't get your question related to Bhopal Gas Leak. You can frame it better, right? So this is it for today's session. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. And if you want to enjoy more and more benefits of current affairs, I would say one thing: join our Ignited Current Affairs batch that run from 10 to 11 a.m. in the morning, where we cover Hindu newspaper, Indian Express, PIB, Down to Earth, Yojana, Hindu Business Line. If you want to be excelling in your current affairs, this is one stop solution for you. You can have the demo class, you can call on the number in the description and avail the benefits of this particular course that comes at a very very nominal fees. I hope you are able to particularly, let's say, understand about this particular thing, right? Chaliye. Okay, so this is it guys for today. We hope to see each other tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Golden Globe के बारे में पता होना चाहिए. Now if we can talk about UPSC, anything is asked in UPSC. So we need to be aware of this particular situation because this is a very very big thing that has happened, that is triple R. So we might be knowing or we must be aware of these particular things, right? Chaliye ji. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Take care. Goodbye. Thank you.